Hello, good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied hands, Quindy, with a tiny bit of John and an absent Justin. I'm assuming, an absent sleep-deprived Justin. Hello, everybody. Hello. Oh, I've got to fix my chat window. I can't see you all. Must fix chat window. There we go. Now I should be able to see everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, Slalom. You're new. Welcome. All right. Today, we're going to finally do some wool texture on this jacket. We have gotten, we've done a lot. We've actually got quite a lot of progress on her. And of course, eventually, I actually probably could do it now. I could actually attach the hat. I think I've done, if I can stop dropping the hat. I think we've done everything. The thing that's going to determine this is just, have I done all the fiddly bits? And I believe I've gotten all of the lace and all the interior of the hat done. At that point, doing wool texture on like the interior of the hat and stuff is not that difficult. So at that point, you could definitely attach the hat. Plus, I've done the underside of the feathers and everything. Yeah, I'm going to say, looking at the back, yep. Yeah, everything looks pretty good. I think there's nothing that requires really fine control anymore, and that means it's time to attach the hat. Except, of course, that I've left all my glue in the other room. No! So maybe we go hatless once more. Just for today, we'll go hatless. Froggy throat this morning. Definitely stuff in the air here that is affecting the allergies. How's everybody? I hope you had a fantastic weekend. I had a pretty relaxing weekend, personally. No hat Monday. Yep. One more day without a hat on this girl. But we are dangerously close to actually, like, being done. I want a little bit more on this shoulder, just to work, and the collar here. It's the shadow side of her, but I still want to put a little bit more on it. So, because even though the hat is here, if I look at it, you can see the shadow, but you can see that the outer parts of this still get light, which is why I brought up the red down there. So really, it's her face and hair and this part of the collar that's shadowed. By the time you get over here, you can see the shoulder stands out again. So we want to continue that and make sure that that's evident. There you can see it again. So the hat doesn't cast that much of a shadow. So we do want to bring up more detail on this shoulder because of that. But otherwise, I mean, everything's looking pretty good right now. We're getting really close to finishing her, and then we can start one of the elemental scions. I wanted to do one of these. This is what we're going to be working on coming up. Big dudes. Big dudes. Probably fish and air. The water and the air one are the two that I really like. But we'll replace the bust with one of them, and we'll replace the centaur with the other when we finish him. So 2 big models for 2 big models. And I'm going to get some of the Storm Chaser blue, which is what we were using. Very handy at, right? Which is a Reapercon color. But you could also use any like dark navy color. I just like this one. I'm going to mix a highlight for it. Because it is a dark blue, it's going to be a little bit annoying to highlight. So I'm going to use 4 drops of it. And then I'm going to reach for an off-white. I think I'm going to actually use a Syrian sand on this one. I don't like to use pure white to bring up blues that have been muted. I like to mute them even more. I find that they would shift a little bit warmer and greener under light, so using a yellowish white as the Pathfinder Osirian Sand is a good choice. So I'm going to start with just 1 drop of that, which is pretty much going to lighten it without really shifting it appreciably. There's a lot of blue pigment loaded into this Storm Chaser blue, and so the tiny amount of yellow, the relatively tiny amount of yellow in Osirian Sand really isn't going to make a big impact with only 1 drop. So we've managed to get 2 strawberries out of our strawberry plant without the wild animals like eating them first. I'm impressed. All right, let's put some total non sequitur there a bit. That's what I was excited about this weekend. I'm gonna drop a drop of water into our base coat and 2 drops of water into our first highlight color. We're gonna mix all additional highlight colors from this first highlight color. Oh, and the only other exciting thing that David and I did this weekend was we started watching the Critical Role cartoon. We wanted to know what characters our puppies were named after. Oh, and I have a pup date too. All right, so you can see that even with just 1 drop of white, it did shift appreciably. This is the thing with blues, with darker blues, and I've talked about this briefly before, but because just the way the pigment works is white tends to impact it very, very heavily, even if it's just an off-white. And that can make it hard to blend up from a very dark blue. Well, if you didn't know, all the puppies in the litter that we are currently on are named after Critical Role Season 1 characters. Just noticed I had a little bit of lint there. So we had to figure out, we didn't know who they all were, so we decided to watch the cartoon and find out. All right, let's see here. I know that there are pictures. Well, first of all, cleaning the pen, you get a laundry basket full of fluff. A laundry basket full of tiny puppies. It's the most effective way to contain them while you are cleaning their area. But let's see here. There's a really cute one of Keyleth. Sadly, everybody already likes Keyleth. But now you're going to like Keyleth even more. Hold on. There was a lot of chat last night, so let's see here. I've got lint on my phone. Pike is really hard to get a picture of because, of course, she's a solid black puppy. So she is hard to see, sadly. She's a little lump. But you can see they're getting longer legs now. Their legs are getting thicker. Then we have Miss Vexalia. And she's going to be a dual. So she's going to have saddle marking on her back. And so this light color on her face is going to get brighter and brighter, essentially. She's more and more of her color will turn light. So she'll be probably a pretty classic dual. So she'll have mostly tan, but then black saddle. And then there are Vex and Keyleth playing. Extremely short case, yes, Clavicus. So that's really fun. Now that they can see each other and their vision's getting better, they're actually playing and interacting. So they're licking each other and they're trying to nom on each other, which is adorable. So that's Pink Girl and Yellow Girl. There's Yellow Girl, extremely upset that Mom has not stayed in the whelping box to nurse them. So that is Keyleth complaining. Yeah, total complaint there. Like, Mom! Totally. And then another Vex. And then a Keyleth. So they are almost getting pup-like. Look, you can see the legs are a lot thicker now. Because they've been walking on them and they've been building muscle, or wobbling on them, I guess is a better term. So, yeah. So that is our pup date for the day from the weekend. Sweet. So you've all had your pup date. We can go back to our regularly scheduled stream now. Alrighty. Oh no, where did I put my new well, that's my old brush. But where's my new brush? I seem to have oh, there it is, hiding at the top of my table. New brush. Much better. Mom, feed me now, yes. Yeah, they're very cute and they're only going to get cuter. In my opinion, the 4 weeks period is the cutest. They're exactly 3 weeks old today. So they've actually, I think yesterday, Bridget gave them their first solid food, which is not very solid. It's mostly goat's milk with some ground up venison in it, mushed up venison. Alrighty, so we're gonna do wool. I'm gonna first make sure I've got a nice solid base coat on some of these panels. I'm noticing a little bit, just a little bit of the white primer showing through, so I'm gonna put a real quick rebase on this. I'm also gonna put the hat on and check how much highlight this lapel actually gets. So wool texture is a pretty subtle texture. It's done by stippling. It's the same kind of thing that you would do for a crushed velvet or any other like texture that is kind of made by a fuzzy kind of cloth or a rough cloth. But how fine or how coarse you make it is going to influence the appearance of the cloth. I also need to get out my walnut because I have stitching here that I need to accentuate. Actually, I'll use brown liner for that. I think I want a little more solid. Oh my god, that's ridiculous for you, Scotland, Kuruniko. I'm surprised the entire country didn't melt. But yeah, terrifying is the right word. Oh, CNOT with the raid. Thank you so much. CNOT is the awesome. In case y'all didn't know, you should all go check out his channel when he's streaming for sure. He does custom sculpts, large scale, really cool stuff. Welcome everybody. My name is Anne. I work for Reaper Miniatures and we are working on a bust today. It's a bust that was a special release for ReaperCon last year. ReaperCon is our annual convention in Denton, Texas, where Reaper is located. And yeah, so we're doing about to do wool texture on her jacket. She's almost finished. She has a hat that I have also mostly finished, so she's looking pretty stellar right now, I think. But yeah, so we're gonna do a bit of wool cloth texture on the jacket today. Hopefully get it pretty much done. The nice thing about thanks, Mac Attack. Yeah, it's like super. To do colored irises, you need a big model. So busts are like the easiest way to like do a good colored iris on a model. There are people who are better at it than me, but yeah, she has nice big eyes too, so that really makes it easy to do a good eyeball when you've got all this room to work. Thanks, Corin. Yeah, she's getting there. Yeah, she has a hat. Yeah, we were just painting it in other streams, so yeah, so that's her total look. And then I'll find a nice base to put her on, a nice plinth to put her on when she's complete. But yeah, she's been fun. Like all of the streams that I do go onto Reaper Miniatures YouTube. So you could actually go and if you wanted to watch like how I did the skin or how I did the hair, you could go and look up those streams and find them on our YouTube. So her name is actually, just to give you her name and her number. So usually you can find, you can search things on our YouTube by either the SKU or the name. So yeah, I was going to attach the hat, but then I realized all my glue is in the other room. I seem to like always be moving it to the room I actually don't need it in. But I didn't feel like getting up and going to get it, so we're just gonna go forward. But yeah, I was just mixing up a shadow because we've got this stitching here on the lapels, and I did shade it. You can see how I shaded it on this one side, but I haven't done that. You can see it's really just bare over here, so I need to attend to that. So I'm currently mixing up a puddle of brown liner, which is a really dark brown. It's a liner paints tend to be a little bit more transparent, so you can use them as dark shaders. They're really good for shading. And that's why I'm not using a similar color, but a much stronger paint like walnut brown. Walnut brown and brown liner are very, very close in color. Brown liner is maybe a little more yellow. You can kind of see it, how this is shifting a little more red and that's shifting a little more yellow. But they're very different because the liner base has that translucency to it so that it makes a great wash. It makes a great, a great just shading color in general. Walnut is very strong. It has a lot of coverage. And so essentially trying to use it as a shader, you have to thin it a lot more. You have to mess with it a lot more to get a more subtle effect. If you need a bold line, then walnut is your friend. If you need to thin a paint but still have a really, really solid line, more of a cartoony look, then you want walnut. But right now I want just something that's not going to like totally sock you in the eye. I just want a kind of a more subtle shadow. So that's why I'm using brown liner instead of walnut. We're gonna mix that up real quick and add a little bit of water to it. And I am trying to put a little bit of lotion on my hands without getting it all over my fingers so I don't get it all over the mini. There we go. So we're just gonna go, I'm gonna go 2-to-1 on this because I want it as a shader. Uh-oh, dropped a little water into my dropper bottle is very out of control lately. I need a new one. Alrighty. All right, cool. Anyway, hang out if you want, guys. We're going to do some wool texture. Wool texture is one of the textures that you can do on cloth that is a stippling. It's different from the texture that we did on her facings here, where you can see the little line texture here. And that's more of a weave. That's more of a weaving texture, and you use lines. You can do, we did both horizontal and vertical. The vertical weave is showing up a little stronger just because it's hitting the top here and you can see it going in there, but there are also some horizontal lines to make this more of a traditional woven cloth, more of a linen. And then, but here I want a heavier cloth. I want that wool jacket. It looks thick here, so I want to be able to capture that. So yeah. Now on the hat, I may go back to doing a slightly different texture, even though it's the same color, just because the hat wouldn't be wool probably. I mean, it could be. Depends. I may have to look up like Commodore's hats and see what they were actually made of. All right, I'm gonna mix up this brown liner, but I'm gonna do it with my mixing brush. When you're mixing up paint, don't use your good brushes, or you're gonna have to do a lot more cleaning on them. All right. So you can see on this side that although it has a shadow, it is very subtle. And we're going to switch back to our really good brush with a really good tip so that we can kind of paint some shadow right down the front there. We also need to remember that we have not painted our little eyelets here with gold yet, but we still have gold to do on the shoulders, so we'll just tackle all the gold on this side. We already have done the gold over here, as you can see. All right, so brown liner, it's quite thin. You can see how it kind of falls off the side of the palette there. See it a lot easier here. You can see that it's kind of transparent, and that's what I want. That's why I'm using this color in the first place. Because it's almost a wash, right? So I'm just going to put it and paint it over the stitching here. Just because I want it to stand out a little bit. Alrighty. Sweet. And then when I bring my highlights in, actually one of the first things I'll do, I'll test my my highlight color real quick by, yep, you did, Pendrake, you missed the pup date. We do puppy updates to get it out of the way because I don't want to interrupt the stream for it. I might do another one toward the end, or I might not. I don't expect a lot of photos this week, so we may not get a lot of update. I'm actually going to add a little bit more paint to my highlight color because I accidentally dropped that extra drop of water in there. So I feel like I want it to be a little bit more, a little bit thicker. There, we'll try that. I need to be able to see the difference still between these two colors. All right, now we're good. Now we'll go. Just gonna put a little bit of paint on my brush and I'm unloading it to get the paint off. When it's this watery, we want it to be very thin. I have to look really closely. So this is kind of a test to see if I'm bringing up the color adequately, and I feel like it needs to be a little bit more. I'm going to drop a tiny bit more off-white into it. It's just really transparent right now. I need it to be a little stronger for those little details to come out. If I was doing a big surface and trying to do like a blend, like layering, then that would be a perfect consistency where it's a very subtle effect. But because I'm actually going to be doing wool, I want a thicker paint. When you do texture, you need your paint to be higher coverage than when you're trying to paint something and do a smooth blend on it. Or even a finer blend. Like I would go a lot finer with a linen texture paint, a lot thinner with a linen texture than I would with a paint where I was going to do wool. Just because wool has that bumpy texture, you don't want to be going over it 15 times to build up the texture. To be fair, Pendrake, you are a half hour late. All right, let's try this again. Let's see. I added a little bit more paint to my highlight color. I want to be able to see. Oh, that's a lot now. But remember, it'll kind of fade in and darken as it dries. So now we can see it. In fact, that one's definitely a blorf. Blorf means I screwed it up. Real fine little stitches. But as it dries, it fades out a little bit. I can take a little bit of liner in there and correct that tiny blorf. Not that most people would even see it. So mostly you probably wouldn't even care. But I can fix it, so I will fix it. Just by doing a little extra lining in there. And that's going to be good enough, I think. So we're going to start with that texture and see what we can do. I do need a little bit more base coat on this side because it went a little thin over here. All right. All right, so again, I'm going to load up my brush and I'm going to unload it. So loading, I only put a little bit of the brush in there. Unloading, I want to get all of that paint off of there. A lot of it, and when you have the thinner your paint, the more you're going to have to unload. The thinner your paint and the bigger your brush. So if you're having problems with unloading and you're getting a lot of puddles and everything is too much paint, switch to a smaller brush. You'll have to reload more, but it'll give you more control. And then I need to double check the lighting. So hat, and I need to get the right angle. So what I'm seeing compared to here is that we do have a bit of a shadow here. It's not going to go up as high of a highlight as it does over here. You can see there's a brighter area here. The inner part's going to be just fine. We might have a bit of a highlight here. But I'm not going to take up this area as much. And mostly we've got kind of a triangular highlight area. So I know that the interior here is going to get texture. Now, you could use a bigger brush if you wanted a bigger texture. I'm using a very fine tip brush. I am not doing stippling by poking my brush tip straight at the surface. That is pretty much a recipe for you killing your brush. Instead, I'm using this side of the tip, as you can see. And this is going to be pretty fine to do what we want to do. And since you don't really care, like you really don't care if you're even overlapping, you can see those little dots. You don't really care, like, you're not trying to be precise with this. You're just trying to make a bunch of little dots. If they overlap, they overlap. If they don't overlap, great, you know, whatever. But you're just going to be building up this texture with more and more layers of highlight. So, especially for this first area, it doesn't really matter. But always just make sure your brush is at a slight angle. You can hold it either to the side or like top down, doesn't matter. You just want to be working in the texture. Now remember that with textures, they are not really visible in the shadows. So the only place you have to texture is wherever light is falling. That's why I checked the positioning of the light before I started this. So for our first layer, we're just starting to bring that up. As we bring up more and more layers of highlighting, you'll see that texture come out more and more until it's really evident, especially once we texture all of the surfaces that are this color. Stippling is nice and forgiving though, because you don't have to be precise with it, and you can overlap it and it'll still look good. I am going to get the edge a bit, because the edge would probably be a little more worn, especially with the big notch taken out of it. So making the edge a little bit fuzzy, plus this part looks like it comes out a little bit more, so I'll bring it up a little bit more. And that gives us our starting texture. You, if your paint's really thin, you can just double up on this texture and do another round of texture to bring it up a little bit more, or you can switch colors at this point. This is always the way with layering. When you're working with really thin paint, you don't always have to switch your color right away. You don't have to switch to a highlight color. Chances are your first layer when it went on was a bit transparent, and so you can just go over it with another layer of the color you already used, and it will actually come up lighter. So before you put an additional color onto your layering, whether you're doing texture like this or you're doing just traditional layering, try layering on another layer of the color that you started with, because that might give you a better blend than switching colors immediately. But do try not to knock out all your texture. You don't want to lose all of it. You still want to be able to see the stipples, just like you can there. That's drying. There we are. So I did not change colors, but you can see that as I layer up more of this color, it is coming up lighter. Morning, Daffod Weir. So yeah, David and I are enjoying the Critical Role cartoon. We were like, I can see why people love it. It reminds you, like, you get all the, if you play D&D, you get all the jokes. You're like, oh yeah, that would totally happen in my game. The thing I like about Matt Mercer as a GM is he's really good at giving each of his player characters an interesting arc. There we go. So we're layering up still that same color, and you can see how that is creating a subtle highlight. Now, if you feel like you go too far, you can bring in your base coat again. You can just essentially grab some base coat and start stippling with that. And what you do then is you kind of stipple that over the edge of the highlight color. So you dim it down or you blend it in. And it's all, if you feel like you lose your texture, that's how you bring it back. You stipple in some dark. Now, you could do a general wool felted texture like this, or you could do a really rough woven wool. For those on my Patreon, I did that, gosh, way back at the beginning of the dawn of time on my Patreon. There's a lesson on wool cloth where I show how to do a rip, and I also show a really rough woven texture. And essentially, yeah, but I don't think trying to match him is like, you have to remember also he's working with actors for freaking sake. You know, he's not working with your average D&D player. So I don't think the point is to like give you something to aspire to, although a lot of people have taken it that way. I feel like more he's an entertainer. So for me as a GM, I'm not so much taking lessons from it, so much as other than, you know, the fact that I do really enjoy that he works meaningful character arcs in for any character that wants one. And he's very good at making them different. They feel different. So those are good GM skills, but yeah. he also has exceedingly talented players who are like in it for like not only like the gross out or the killer moments, but the character development moments. So yes, but anyway, yeah. So if you want that, if you are on my Patreon or you're interested in checking it out, it is a great bargain right now. We've been doing it for over 3.5 years, and when you sign on to a level, you get every bit of content that has gone before. If you sign on for $5 content, you also get some of the $10 content, because I did a special a couple of years ago where I gave that out for people who subbed, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to keep this as, you know, a nice bonus. So you $5 level is probably your golden level as far as getting the most value, if you don't want to go all the way up to the paint along level, which gets you everything, a lot of stuff. But yeah, so now if I was going to do, I'll just kind of summarize. I won't demonstrate it because I don't want to do it on this model. But if you want to do that really rough woven, like if you're doing, in my case, I was working on a Viking bust, you go linearly with it at that point. You stipple, but you kind of go in lines, because then you can show like the snags, and you use bigger stipples to show a more rough woven. So here I'm keeping my stipple texture really, really consistent. I want it to be a more like, you know, 1800s or style wool, and less a really early like 1200s style weaving, right? So yeah, and he is also a voice actor. Yeah, but I mean they're all actors when it comes down to it. So if we as GMs had our role playing groups full of actors, talented voice actors, we would probably be able to, you know, have better games too. But yeah, so yeah, if you're going it really depends on time period, and are you going historical? Are you trying to show a more primitive look, right? If you're doing a more primitive model, or a model that just would have very, very rough clothing, then you would break up the size of the stippling. You would try to introduce, you know, some additional maybe linear texture to show the weave. You would maybe portray some snags, stuff like that. But she definitely has kind of fancier clothing, and so to me, this is more 1800s style, which I think actually a lot of fantasy, despite people like drawing medieval comparisons, a lot of fantasy actually does pull heavily from the Renaissance and from the 1800s in some things as well. So yeah, so since I want her to be a more, this is actually a fancy jacket, it might be beat up, but I'm going with a very, very linear, very consistent stipple for this. Yeah, it's true, Valendar. I mean, it's a group game. A bad GM is just going to lose good players because they're going to get frustrated and leave, in my opinion. Overwatch. Thanks, Warshadow. Yes, yeah, because Matt Mercer did McCree, right? Yep. Or not McCree, Cassidy now. Since they changed the character's name. But yes. It is pretty cool. All right, so, and here I've got just an irregular texture because the sculpt has a bit of an irregular texture. So if I'm noticing that there's that the cloth kind of curves or dips or whatever, I'm gonna go along with that and depict it. Well, yeah, that's exactly it, Crazed. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's got a very top-notch group of players, and you can be the best GM in the world, but if you have a bunch of people who don't really care, or who, you know, just want to murder hobo or whatever, you know, then you're just gonna kind of be stuck there. Like, in order, it pays as a GM to find a group of players who like your GMing style and appreciate your strengths, and vice versa. Like, the best groups are those where the players and the GM really want to tell the same kind of story. Yeah, when you like the same tropes, like, right? That is a thing. That's totally a thing. Yeah, the games that get frustrating for me, I also like the found family trope, and the games that get frustrated for me is when you have a player who just wants to screw over the party. And that gets back to, again, because there are players who would love to play in a game where the whole party is kind of like looking at each other sideways, wondering if they can trust each other, and there's definitely a cool story that you could tell with that. But some players get very frustrated by that, some GMs as well. So again, it comes back to finding that difficult thing about role-playing games, right? Finding a group that you really jive with that tells the kind of stories you want to tell. I'm going to start here on that, and we're going to make this area very consistent because the light is definitely hitting here, and it's smooth. It doesn't have dips like this area does. Yeah, there is a villain. There are always those games. Like there's evil campaigns out there, or villain campaigns out there. And some people find those like fun. I don't. I will admit it. I have tried to play a villain character, and the best I can pull off is neutral. I have no problem playing villain NPCs. But yeah, it's not fun for me. But I know many people who like it. Many of my friends really enjoy that kind of game, but I'm such a goody two shoes. I am totally the goody two shoes. In Critical Role terms, I am totally Pike because I am the goody two shoes who hates to see her friends die and is just like always keeping people on task like that. that's totally my character. Yeah, and that's really good, Kuroniko. Like I think that's kind of the best talk to have with the party if you sense that there might be a tendency toward like murder hoboing or whatever else. Is like, hey guys, I need to enjoy this too because I'm putting a lot of time into making these stories for you. So ground rules, things I would appreciate, setting that up at the start of the story and then saying, and if you don't want to play that way, then, you're welcome to find another group, right? You really lay it down. Because, yeah, if you as a GM, I mean, I think personally that's a major cause of role-playing campaigns just deep sixing is that the party goes one way and the GM wants to go the other way, and there wasn't clear communication in the beginning, and then things just end because it's much easier for the GM to just say, sorry, don't have time to do this anymore. So. Yeah, that dash, the people dash. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, right. Yeah, like if you can play complex villains, then I wouldn't like. Okay, I guess I could see it in a world that's very gray, right? If your world is very gray and there are no real good guys, then playing villain type characters who are really in it for themselves, like that makes a little more sense, right? Because literally everybody else in the world is just out to screw each other, and you've got to play that way. Like, and that would be like another good game. Paranoia is, of course, the classic example, as you say, but Call of Cthulhu can also be that way. And I have played characters in Call of Cthulhu that were probably questionably moral. There was one game where it was two guys and two girls, and me and the other girl ended up accidentally killing the male characters, getting them killed essentially. But then from then on, it became a trope. Like it seemed like we were always doing things that killed our male character. So then it really we embraced it, we ran with it, and that was probably the closest I've ever been to playing an evil character. Yeah, originally it was accidental, Kuroniko. The next time it happened, it was like somewhat accidental, and after that we were just into the trope. We were Black Widows, and that was the way we were going to be. Yeah, Pyromancer, and it can be enjoyable, and it can just be draining, right? It's like when I played World of Darkness, I had an excellent GM run us through a standalone, just like 2-session Wraith game. And that is like a dark, dark game. And it was amazing, and it was cathartic, but I never wanted to do it again afterwards. It was just too dark for me. I really love heroism. I love heroic tales. I love fairy tales. I love classic epic fantasy. I love a big arc against a big baddie where the characters have to like seriously like apply themselves to win. Can't help it. I have an epic brain. That's what I love. A little bit on the sleeve there so you can see how you can still see the dots. You can still see that it's a rough texture. And that is evident even from farther away. You can see actually almost better there how it creates a worn and softer look for the highlight. Yeah, right, Bill. It's exactly. You go into it expecting it, and so it's all good. But it gets old. And that's why you play Paranoia for one session every once in a while and you don't make it a campaign, because it does get old. Or it gets repetitive. Same thing. There we go. No, I mean, you can play a very good character in Call of Cthulhu. The problem is that you just tend to go down into you look into the void and it looks into you. Like, that's the classic Lovecraftian trope, and that's the kind of game it is. So you don't start out as evil, and you can indeed keep your good guyness, but you also have moments where you are really dancing along the edge of insanity or embracing it. But yeah, I mean, my character started out with the best of intentions. But, you know, there were really bad things in the world, and those guys were clueless and gonna get us killed. You can manage. There's always gray areas. That game didn't last for very long, but it was super fun. And the guys just got into it. Like, after the second death, they were like, all right, this is just the way it's gonna go. So let's see what the most amusing and dramatic way I can get my character killed in. But yeah, I really like Call of Cthulhu as a game, actually, in some ways. If it were me, I mean, Call of Cthulhu does have the big baddie, you know, trying to eat the world kind of theme, and it has, spell books that will eat your brain and all sorts of other fun stuff. I like the mystery component of Call of Cthulhu. I don't like the hopeless component of Call of Cthulhu. Like, I like Call of Cthulhu if you actually have a chance to stop Cthulhu. Or you actually have a chance to prevent, the cultists from summoning the big evil. That I like. But some Call of Cthulhu games, you just don't have the chance to do that. It's all about kind of the inevitable slide. Huh. So I'm going to just get, again, kind of soft highlights around the edges of this cloth. It's a very thick, coarse cloth. I want a lot of highlight up on the top edge here. Now, I don't have a really solid base coat up there. I can see that. So I'm going to actually stop and put a layer of base up along the edge of that. Yeah, watching Critical Role just makes me want to, play D&D pretty much. I think that's why... since Critical Role, boomed, they fed each other, right? Critical Role boomed and made a whole bunch of people want to play D&D again, or it introduced new people to D&D who then wanted to play D&D. But D&D and its presence, is what, made Critical Role a thing in the first place, so yeah. Chicken and egg. Though, Dungeons & Dragons is booming, so... There are probably more nerds like us out there playing D&D right now than there ever have been. Ever. Which is actually pretty cool. I don't remember. I tend to avoid horror movies because they tend to be a little intense for me, Kerniko. I've seen a couple of Cthulhu ones, and often they did tend to be too intense for me. So these days, I would tend to give them kind of a miss unless somebody really, really endorsed it. But I may have seen that one. I don't remember. These days, I'm not a big media consumer, though. Like, David was actually so startled when I asked him last night if he wanted to watch the first episode or 2 episodes of Critical Role with me. Or Legend of Vox Machina, rather. Because normally I am not a... I prefer to do more active things with my spare time. But it's all about the puppy, man. I needed to know who the puppy characters were. The problem is now after we watched the first 2 episodes, I look at David and I'm like, are you sure you want the neurotic druid puppy? Yeah, umbrella that has a D20 graphic. Oh, Bridget has, you guys, in the puppy pen, she has a stuffed D20 as a puppy toy. They love it. They love to like knock into it and roll it around. She's already told them that they're not permitted to roll anything below a 10. But she actually does. I saw it on... We FaceTimed yesterday to see the puppies. And there was an actual D20 in the pen. Keyleth Pendrake, the sable one. The one that David likes. The sable is the brown, wavy-haired brown one. She's definitely kind of the hyperphobic neurotic druid character with no filters. Super fearful. I'm like, I don't know if I want that puppy. Now that I know who the character is, I kind of like Vex. Yeah, but you know, you could still fail your cute roll as a puppy. I don't know. I don't know how you do it. Like, you'd have to have an immense crit bad. Like, we probably have to roll multiple ones as a puppy to fail your cute rolls. You definitely can fail your play roll, though, at this age. Because you, like, knock into your friend puppy and then just roll over and can't get up again. That's like, your fail crit as a puppy on play. Because your legs don't work yet. Right, yeah, exactly. I'm definitely a sensitive, as far as media consumption, I'm quite sensitive. It doesn't take much to make me kind of pull back and go no way. So that's why I'm not watching Stranger Things with David. Instead, I have him summarize the storyline for me, because I'm still interested in, like, the writing, like, how they're constructing the story. And I don't care about spoilers, because I'm not going to watch it. So he gets to talk to me about... That's I think makes him happier, is that he still gets to talk to me about the story and what's happening. And because I don't care about spoilers, because I'm never going to watch it. But I like to hear about the story. So I'm bringing in some of my brown liner here to bring in some darker shadows. And again, I'm using a stippling stroke. So I may be roughing it a little bit more. I'm not quite as precise, but that's because it's the shadows. So I don't really care very much. I just want it to kind of blend in when I start bringing in the highlight there. Oh, I'm sure they won't be like their namesakes. After all, Bridget named them. She gave them their call names when they were, like, 0 hour old. So I don't think that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going to end up like their character. Some people really love pugs, so I think that's totally... Jason Weeby loves pugs. Cuteness is in the eye of the beholder. All right, so just bringing up that highlight there. You can see how we're going to start bringing all this up. We have a lot of light on this side, but we also have this scarf that's going to kind of come in and be in a bit of shadow in a second. I want to bring in a little bit of highlight in here, though, right where you see the light. I actually think pugs are much cuter as puppies than they are as adults, but most dogs are. So I'm going to start bringing in a little bit of highlight down here. But yeah, actually, as far as characters, female characters go, I don't know. I mean, Pike's the cleric, and I go for clerics, but there are lots of things I need to juggle when I'm choosing which puppy we're going to get. And temperament is number one, but then breed traits are also, breed type is also one, because this is a potential breeding dog, and so we want to pick because it's a mix, we want to pick the one that's closest to Shiloh Shepherd type. So we'll be kind of doing a balancing act when we pick our puppy between a good temperament for David and I, which is the number one priority, and how well the puppy, like how close to Shiloh the puppy is, like its qualities physically. All right, so I've got a starting layer of highlight here. You can see the texture coming up. And isn't it funny how you can see the texture considering the tininess of the dots that I'm doing? It's very cool. So you can see, I hope, you can see that rough texture. Like it's definitely giving you the visual information that the cloth is rough and not smooth. Yeah, Tamaskins are cool. Their breed actually is starting, there are 3 different breeds, like the Northern Inuit breed and the Tamaskin breed are from the same root breeding program. And there's one other one, too, that comes from that same program. But they were kind of like all over the place at the beginning. But the Tamaskins seem to be really pulling it together now and becoming a good organization for conscientious breeding, from what I've heard. But yeah, they're cool. I mean, they look like Kiri. If I wanted a Kiri lookalike, I would get a Tamaskin. Because otherwise, the Kiri's color pattern is so rare in Shiloh's. Says we don't breed for that. All right, so I'm putting on stippling on the top here. You can see the irregular texture. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch them develop. They'll have to watch the, I don't know if they're still outcrossing or mixing or if they're kind of just working with a solid gene pool now. Originally, Tamaskins and Northern Inuits are a mix of Malamute, Husky, and German Shepherd dog, for those who are not familiar with the breed. And they look a lot like my old dog, Kiri. Yeah, they're very wolfy. I mean, they get that from the Malamute and Husky, right? It's the markings. And then the German Shepherd. German Shepherd dogs did have wolves used in their breed creation back in 1899 and thereabouts. I forget how many wolves are in the German Shepherd stud book. 17, maybe? Can't remember. But there were wolves used back in the day. Long time ago. So that's where you get that wolfy look from those. And Malamutes also are genetically fairly close, relatively speaking. Again, not for a very long time, but Some dogs have more recent wolf introgression in their creation than other dogs. But when the recent quote unquote air quotes is like 40 years or more back, you generally have washed it out with just regular dog at that point. But yeah, I would look at that breed. I would look at that breed if I wanted another Kyria-like. It's a breed we've also kind of looked at for outcrossing, although because it has German Shepherd in it, it's less ideal for us at this stage in our outcrossing program. We really are looking for very different lines right now. All right, so we've got our texture, and you can see that soft, rough texture. I'm going to put a little bit, you can see there could be a little bit of highlight down here, so I'm probably going to take and mix a little bit of base coat with a highlight so I don't get quite as high, quite as light of a highlight. And I'll put in a little bit down here where where those lumps are in the sculpt. And that'll give me a little bit of a highlight, but not anything as strong as here. You can still see it. There. And I need to get in there for a little bit of a highlight. But yep, I only have 4.5 weeks left of puppy-free sleep. Now we are going to come over here to the collar. I need to look over it on this side, put the hat on in place, kind of look at it. I'm still getting a little bit of highlight like right here and here for light coming by. So I'll probably bring up a little bit of highlight there. Just gonna make sure again that I have a good solid undercoat on there. Yeah, I think the standout puppies in this litter are actually the boys. It figures. Grog and Percy are both seem to be very, very standout boys. As far as when you're looking at the litter, you just are drawn to those guys. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these turn out. I think this is actually more exciting than just getting a standard Shiloh, because I have no idea, because of the mix I have, we're going to get some variations and it's going to be interesting. So I'm actually really excited about being on this litter. Alrighty, so a little bit of highlight up here on the top. Again, stipples. And a bit down the front here. Oh, we have exactly what Bridget wanted, and she and Kernika were the winners. She's got 4 boys and 3 girls, 7 puppies. So perfect Critical Role. Perfect Critical Role cast, pretty much. Oh, and there's going to be another puppy, guys. So one of our fellow breeders and friends, Mindy, had what we call a singleton. So she had a single puppy. And it's been really rough for her because she has had to like feed the puppy because the mom's milk didn't come in, which sometimes happens with single puppies. So it's been really rough. Plus, raising a singleton puppy is very difficult because the puppy doesn't have other puppies to interact with, so it doesn't learn like dog manners, or sometimes it won't learn manners at all because it doesn't have anyone to like to kind of yelp back at it if it nibbles too hard, or if it does whatever. So singletons are a real challenge to raise. So Bridget has offered to take the puppy because it's only 3 days older than her litter. So the puppy will be coming to, Mindy's going to bring the puppy out to Bridget, which is quite the drive from Indianapolis area up to Fargo. And she's going to bring the puppy up, and they're going to see if Zammy integrates it. And then the puppy will be able to grow up with siblings. You were right but wrong, Shadow Raven, because of the one puppy who passed. Actually, I think I don't remember if you got the winning one. If they hadn't lost one puppy out, then maybe. But we don't count that way. We count with live puppies. So yeah. So the funny thing is that the little boy who's coming from Mindy is actually also a solid black, which is actually rare in Shiloh's. So now Bridget will have 4 black puppies to keep track of. He's smaller than Bridget's puppies. But yeah, hopefully Bridget had success with Nova, Zammy's mom. They actually adopted 2 puppies from a local shelter that needed a mom. And they actually, Nova accepted the puppies, the mixed breed shelter puppies, as her own kids, and she helped raise them. So I think Bridget is optimistic that Zammy will accept this puppy. I think the other pup's mom is like had just a serious, I think it was a C-section too, so like Salem has just not been, like she's in kind of out of it and not really, yeah. I get the feeling that Mindy has had to do all of the puppy's care, which is really hard when you have a real job. Although her real job is as a veterinary tech, so she probably has been bringing the baby to work, and I imagine she has some other people to help her. But it's still a lot of work when the mom dog just doesn't have the hormones kick in. And so I don't think Mindy would do it if she thought that her dog would be, like really heartbroken or anything. Yes, and there's the DM, right? Exactly, Big Eiler. I'm sure Bridget has thought of that. She needs to call him Mercer. I'm sure that he already has a call name from Mindy. But yeah, they had to import a GM. So yeah, hopefully that all goes off without a hitch, and Zam likes the new puppy and is fine with him. We'll see. Shiloh's tend to not be like, they tend to be very easygoing dogs like this. So there we go. Just a little bit of highlight. I'm gonna pop in a shadow there. Yeah, so we're hoping it works out great, and that then I'll be doing the litter evaluation for that puppy as well. So it's a win-win because Mindy gets her puppy socialized, and she doesn't have to look for a litter evaluator for one puppy. She can just use me for Bridget's litter. Alrighty. That's coming along. Now we need a little bit over here. Not a lot because there's a lot of shadow over here. And actually I'm going to take my blue and block in some shadows. Because there isn't a lot of light in here, and since this whole area is in shadow, I'll actually mix my brown liner with the blue that I'm using, my base coat blue, the Storm Chaser blue. And I'll, instead of bringing up highlights, I'll block in shadows. So that still gives you... Hello, Dogfather. Yeah, Kreniko. Yeah, because animals, like, I do not hold with the old scientific view that animals don't have emotions. Like, it's even a current scientific view for some people. But it's like, all you have to do is spend any amount of time with animals before you definitely see things that, you know, are emotional responses. All right, so a little bit of texture in there, but now down here, I'm going to bring in brown liner. I'm just going to paint it in at first. I'm going to stipple the base color over that. Well, yeah, Valandar, but, you know, some scientists, for many, many, many years, scientists resisted that idea. I agree with you. I was the kid who always got terribly upset when it was suggested to me that animals did not have souls. That was me. I was that little kid. Hey, Straw. Total non sequitur there, Straw, but you know. So I'm going to stipple a little bit of texture there and going to bring in the blue over the top of it to blend it in. Then we're going to bring in just a little bit of highlight here. Okay, so we've got that kind of blended in down there. Now there is a pretty heavy shadow that comes in here, so I do want to be careful where I put my highlights in that little spot. And I'll probably get a little bit more shadow in down there. So I'll grab my liner and just bring in a little bit more back under this. We always give people the benefit of the doubt here now, Pendrake, about bot or not bot. You know, you gotta assume. For one thing, if it's a bot, we could be offending our future robot overlords by, you know, calling it out. And if it's not a bot, then you could be offending the person. I don't know. I prefer to assume that you're human unless you're blatantly dropping links to, like, gold farming services or porn. Alrighty. There we go. We, the greater we. I'm giving myself the royal we treatment. Also, give me a break. It's Monday. It is definitely Monday, too. It's absolutely Monday. Blend this in. Alrighty, let's see, what else do I need to do? I need to put in shadows on this side for sure. You can definitely see that shadow falling there, so that means I want to accentuate it, especially with the way the light is falling. Yeah. I don't know if I'd die in the robot uprising. I kind of am okay with becoming a cyborg if it means I get to like stick around and see what happens. So not really being real fine about the stippling when I'm doing shadows. I'm just like trying to get in a regular pattern so that it's easier to blend in to the rest of stuff that's going on. Oh, not much, Nomedzi. Painting, chatting, pup date. So just kind of taking my base blue now and stippling that border in so that I can try to blend it in. And I do want to take this highlight down a little bit. It went a little bit too far for me over here on the shadow side of the model. I've had horses that liked me and a horse that was very maliciously, like, not into kids. Experienced horses, not had, rather. I prefer dogs. Horses are a bit big for me. They're big enough that you definitely get that whole, whoa, that thing could hurt me feeling when you're, like, you know, near it. I did take riding lessons when I was a kid. Funny. That's funny, Karnika. But did it feel good to be out of the raid, Cursed? And could you remember your name? Not that we cast any blame. All right, so now I've pretty much got, although I need to hit this shoulder because we did determine there's light here. At least there's light in the outer part. On the back, we've got light coming in this way, but we've got a lot of shadow over here. We could bring up a bit, probably just a little bit of light over back here, so we'll finish up the front here. Food, bye. Bye, Shadow Raven. Yes, I'm hoping this puppy converts David into being a dog lover. She's going to try her darndest, I'm sure, to wrap him around her little paw. Whoever she is. Just doing a bit of extra lining in there to bring that up and away from the underlying area. Make sure everything stands out. And likewise, there's no lining up here. You can see how it's all very base coaty looking. I'm sure he's going to try to spoil this puppy out from under me, Dogfather. But long ago, I realized that being the disciplinarian half of the puppy parenting act actually has its advantages. For one thing, the dog actually listens to you. So we shall see, we shall see. I am definitely the disciplinarian side of the puppy parenting act, though. I want a well-behaved dog, period. All right, so line around that, essentially with my liner, even though my liner's a bit thin, just gonna bring out the details a little bit better. One other thing you guys are gonna notice about this, by the way, is that it's pretty fast. Like we did at least the first level of everything on the front, like in the course of the stream, and it took us a while to get like ramped up and actually stippling. So, we'll do another layer of highlighting and we'll totally, like, you know, we have a little bit more to do on that. Actually, I'm going to try to do the back because I was a little bit later. Yeah, he's thinking about not staying later after ReaperCon because I'm not going to be able to come with, too. But also because, you know, me and the puppy are going to be, like, waiting for him to come home. He's going to be losing ground on spoiling the puppy while he's at ReaperCon. I'll have to send him lots of cute pictures. There's also a seam back here, stitches going down this side. So I'm blocking those in. And I'm going to shade a bit underneath the collar and to the side of the braid here. Just want a bit of a darker shadow. Feel like I didn't quite nail that in the beginning. Also blurfed a little, but I can bring that in as a regular shadow. Kind of pull some of this shadow out and make it actually a shadow for some areas there. And again, I'm not using like a real firm stipple on this. I'm just using really on a regular brush stroke so that I can blend it in easier. Yeah, there's gold to be done over here. I just didn't do it yet. It's all in shadow. So we'll get there, but we're not there yet. Oh dear, yawn attack. Oh, sorry about that, everybody. Like, I did feel like I got sleep last night, but I slept really poorly the night before. Maybe I'm still catching up. There's another seam line on the other side, so I want to do that with a little bit of a darker color. Gonna bring this, this is kind of a 50-50, just, you know, quickly mixed together mix of brown liner and Storm Chaser blue. And another seam back there. So we're just going to bring in some more shadow along all those seams. But yeah, I really wanted to start the wool today, because I've been doing a lot of the gold and everything, so I didn't decided to not do it that time, and just to get some of this cloth texture done today. It's coming along. So we got some shadows. So this is the thing that you can do if you don't want to bring up highlights, but you still need to bring out details. You can shade instead. This works, of course, for everything except really, really dark colors, at which point you've got to do at least a tiny bit of highlighting on them because you just can't shade them meaningfully. Another dart over here. Up, and there's another seam line right under the arm there, so we gotta bring that out. Yeah, I know a lot of people who are getting it lately, Bill. Just like, you know, hope you feel better soon. Get lots of sleep. You know, at this point, I think the only thing we can really do is to do the standard treatments for when we're sick. Get lots of sleep. Try to eat well. Hold off exercising till you feel better. You know. I'm going to get the underside of this collar with some brown liner real quick. Alrighty. So now we've got at least some shadows on the back here so that we've got a little bit of variance in our color, even though we don't have a lot of highlighting. And then the front, we have a lot of highlighting, bringing that out. You can really see the difference in the blue with that one layer of highlighting. Yeah, David's parents caught it recently, and they were double boosted, and his dad just kind of, you know, had it a little bit of a cold for about 4 days, and his mom's a little bit worse. She's feeling more run down, but they're both recovering well. So yeah, fingers crossed you beat it. You beat it quick, and that it isn't very, you know, impactful on your life. Hope you feel better soon. All right, guys. Yeah, we're moving right along. You can see the difference now between the hat, which is just the base coat, and the coat, which is coming up. Now, we do have to watch our coat color, and we don't want it to get too bright, or it's going to start to really not be the, you know, our aqua is not going to be as extremely different. Like, we'll lose that contrast. Although I still do need to bring up our aqua with some highlights. I did a very quick wet blend to originally set up that aqua scarf, so it is in line for some highlights over there too. Nope. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm pretty like not as concerned about it since I heard about the study that England did, where essentially the flu is more serious at this point as far as significant bad results. So Thanks for the feels though. It's all good. They'll be fine. I'm pretty sure at this point they're both over the worst of it. So it's all good. But yeah, David and I are pretty pragmatic about the whole thing at this point. He's had it once, and I've never had it. So it's a part of life, I think, now. Sadly, but true. But we're pretty good about it, so. Alrighty, there we are. Yeah, I think next time maybe we'll highlight that aqua. We'll give the aqua a little bit of love over here. It needs a little bit now to pop it a little bit. I think a little bit warmer, a little bit greener, and a little bit lighter, so that the wool on the front still has a lot of contrast with the aqua headband, even once we put another level of highlighting on here. Yeah, they spray the cats on with water. Oh my gosh, and they tolerate that? Crazy. You have such crazy cats, Graniko. Yeah, the hat looks good. I'll have to get my glue and put it in here so that we can actually glue the hat on like I wanted to do today, and I totally missed it. But yeah, she's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with her. So thanks, everybody. They demand it. Hydro-cooled kitties. That's great. I love it. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Tomorrow, we are gonna... I may or may not have another pup date. This is when it starts getting busy for Bridget. She has to clean the pen a lot. So we'll see how many photos we tend to get. But tomorrow we'll be working on our elf wizard. Yay! And we're probably... maybe we'll do some freehand. We did the wood grain and we did all that stuff. We did some leather. Yeah, maybe we'll go and map in our alchemical symbols. I'm already pretty late, Pendrake. But I'll re-show the pictures tomorrow because I probably won't get any new ones. Okie dokie, guys. I hope to see you all later. I hope that your Monday is a little bit less sleepy than my Monday is at this point. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow for Miss Starbloom, the wizardess. All right. Thanks so much. And yeah, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.